Hey team, and welcome back to the Med Venturing YouTube channel. Harriet, the Honda Cub, and I have just made it back from the Sahara Desert expedition, and before we went, the top box was in a sorry state for itself. So the first entry into this mini-series of bike preparation videos is the restoration of the 1980 original Rickman top box. Yes, you're right, I do have a black eye. No, it's not from falling off my bike in Morocco. I got beaten up in MMA. So if you like bikes, travel, wild camping, bed for the night, expedition medicine, this channel is for you. Let's get straight into it. This top box was probably held in a shed since it was made in the 1980s because it was full of mold, it stunk, and there was rust on the inside. Alas, this is where we come to restore it. As you can see, we had a little bit of trouble taking the cam latch off, but this is no issue with some persistency. After taking the old cam barrel out, we're now pressing the new one in. Easy. Now it was time to slap the cam arm on. This was a smooth enough job, and then we used the box end of the spanner head to tighten the barrel. We then tested the new cam lock to see if it would work by turning the key. Alas, it did not. There are no problems, only solutions, so we loosened the locking peg to see if the cam arm would then latch onto it, which it did with some effort. Here I'm measuring up the locking peg from the latch to see what distance it needs to be from the plastic. In order for the locking peg to protrude further, I needed a longer bolt. I used 2 hex bolts to space it. Here I'm taking off the latch arm to shave it down. The reason for this was so that the latch arm had more room to grab onto the locking peg. And what you see is a functioning cam lock. Just a quick interruption. I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who helped make this journey possible. And for those of you that enjoy these videos, drop a like, hit subscribe, and let me know your thoughts, ideas, or even your own experiences in the comments below. Also, if you know someone who would enjoy this, share it with them. Alright, back to the video. Here is me getting flashbacks to working in the chemistry lab. Organic chemists love their latex. The goal here was to remove the mouldy, brittle plastic from the surface with a metal Magnuson scraper. Doesn't have to be Magnuson, you can choose your own brand. After renouncing the thick mould, it was then time to utilise the finer sanding block with a little bit of water. One thing I didn't want to learn the hard way is wearing gloves, because the microplastics get everywhere. Massive shout out to Henry Hoover. After giving the box a wipe down and the table a little bit of a clean up, we then moved on to the spray job. This Rickman top box was made in 1980, and I believe it's made out of acrylonitrile butadiene styrene, which usually is recommended to have a primer, but we didn't feel the need and it wasn't necessary for this one. Your mileage may vary. Having soaked the P-clips in vinegar overnight, it was then time to add the sodium bicarbonate or baking soda. You can then use something abrasive to get the surface rust off. I used my sister's toothbrush. Then we entered the club and did some bump and grinding with the Dremel. The grinding was quite a messy job, who would have known, so we did this outdoors. The P-clips, nuts, bolts, washers, all turned out pretty silver in the end. To clean the inside, initially I used a white kitchen vinegar. Coupled with the sandpaper, as you can see here, it was okay. A little bit messy, it went through the holes, but the light bulb switched on and I began using bleach, which worked significantly better, if not being slightly messier. After all of this, I thought now would be a good time to test whether the top box fits. The rear P-clips fit fine, but I needed to drill 2 more holes in, but we'll come back to that later. I don't mind a bit of drum and bass, but the percussive ability of a Rickman top box is not the kind of drum beat I'm after. Henceforth, it shall be lined with felt. Whilst we were at it, we added a new shoelace latch as well. Moving on, we mutilated my dad's hose. These little bits would have acted as dampeners for the P-clips so that they didn't rattle around. I tried the P-clips on with the hose, but they wouldn't tighten far enough, so I decided to then remove them again. No failures, only lessons. So instead of the hose piping, we decided to go for something slightly thinner, which was the duct tape, and this seemed to work a dream. You can't see it here, but I had a screwdriver on the inside securing the bolt head as I used the ratchet socket on the outside to tighten. The shoelace had also garnered some slack, so I decided to tighten that as well. Now this is where the true fun begins for those electronically inclined souls. So here we removed the top box, the shockers and the seat latch. This magnificent process is the start of wiring in the charger for my power bank. This charger will actually sit within the top box. First we needed to get the battery out, so here I'm removing the vent.
There you go. Beautiful.
And now the fuse.
That's it. Okay.
We then started testing the positive for power, but
Oh, the battery's not earthed out. That's that one.
Yeah.
That's why it wasn't working. Because we found that was the earth terminal.
the battery wasn't earthed out. And then we got some photons. We had access to everything that we needed to, so we decided to put the top box back on. This uncomfortable angle represents the feeding of a wire from the battery compartment through the body, past the tank, to the rear end of the bike. Now we're using a heat gun to protect the wire. For this we use a heat sensitive sleeve. Here's a better angle of us feeding through the wire before we could pass it past the tank body. We used a grommet to protect the wire in the top box, but it was too big, so we drilled a hole to give it some breathing room. We could direct the wire through the grommet with the pointy end of the circuit pen. I attached the live wire in the ground lead to a car socket from Halfords and then placed an Anchor USB-C adapter within the car socket to test whether it would charge my phone. It did not. I quickly realised this was because we didn't have good grounding, so I moved the grounding lead onto a different bolt. And voila, it worked. Here's where the true fun begins. I'm putting electrical adapters on the ends of each of the wires. The reason I'm adding a switch here is so that I can decide when to turn the power on and off so that the battery isn't permanently draining. Which means I don't get stranded in the Sahara Desert. Here I'm contemplating my consumption of carrots to try and see whether or not the light is turning on for my charger. It works. What I'm making look incredibly fiddly here is the inline fuse. I decided to put a 5 amp fuse in this relative to the thickness of the wires that I was using and the power of my battery. This is my attempt at taming Medusa and managing all of the cables in the corner underneath the felt. Introducing the Anchor 521, which charges perfectly at 19 watts. And there you have it, The 1980 Rickman top box for my Honda Cub, ready for the Sahara Desert. If you'd like to support even more so I can keep making these videos through med school, you can find my Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee or PayPal in the description. Every bit helps me keep this adventure going. I'll also put your name in the credits.